So you're ready to move out of the city, out of the suburbs, and you're thinking about buying some land, more specifically agriculture land, so you can live on it and grow and provide for your family without the need to have to go to the grocery store all the time. Maybe that's your dream.
Maybe you want to let the dogs run free. Maybe you just want to walk outside and pee in your own yard. Whatever your dream is, if it has to do with ag land, let's talk about it today.
All right, stay tuned.
Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. I'm Tonya. This is my husband, Zach.
Hi.
And today we are talking about something that I am super excited about, super passionate about. It's close to my heart, and that's ag land. The reason I'm so excited is because we are in the process of starting our very own commercial bamboo farm in Fellsmere, Florida. We bought our property about 2 years ago. Yeah, it takes a while to get things going, but we want to share some tips and tricks with you when you are considering making the purchase of agricultural land. Stay tuned. Tell you everything we've learned. There's some important things to know before you even get started.
Yeah, so when you're looking at land, you're going to take a look at like the difference between agricultural and residential. Like if you're just looking for land to put a house on and not grow any crops or have any livestock, residential might be, more appropriate for you. But if you're looking to grow some crops or even have some livestock on the property, you're going to want to be looking at an agricultural or residential agricultural land. And there's some benefits of buying agricultural land. One in particular would be the tax benefits that you get when you grow something on your property.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
When you've got a bona fide agricultural business, something you can prove, you get huge tax breaks.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, a couple $100s versus thousands of dollars. So
yeah, we like that. That's huge.
Yep.
Obviously, the government wants to reward, folks who are entrepreneurial and who are also growing something that can be beneficial to our society, whether it's food or plants. The other benefit would be permitting. When you have an agricultural property, you don't have to get a permit for every little thing like you would on a residential property. So if you're going to make some electrical changes or on an outbuilding, or you're going to, build an outbuilding, you don't need to have a permit for those. Obviously it's important to do it correctly because it could cause problems down the road, but you can sort of bypass that permitting procedure on an agricultural property.
Sure, you want to build a sound structure, obviously, but if you buy your ag land and there's not a residence on the property, you don't have to have a permit for, say, your barn, and you could build a really nice barn, even with a bathroom. Now, your bathroom will require a septic permit.
Yep.
That's obviously important, but the building itself, the concrete, no permits needed. Number 2, wetlands. It's raining. Okay, wetlands must be honored. You cannot just dig it out and call it your pond or your swimming pool.
Yeah. How do you find out if it's wetland?
You could check the flood map.
Yeah.
And
where do you find that?
Online.
What we'll do is we'll go ahead and put the link down in the comments below, so you have a link to the
Don't
floodlands.
look smart.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's important that you know about wetlands and do your research before you buy an ag land or a residential ag land, because if you've got a wetland right in the middle of it and that's where you want to put your house,
it's really tough to have it reclassified. In some cases you can have wetlands reclassified, but it's not an easy feat, nor quick.
Yeah. And it's important too, because we need to preserve these wetlands. We've got a lot of building going on all over the country, here in Florida. And
nature knows what it's doing.
Yeah, I mean, we got to preserve nature as much as we can. So we're all for, the preservation of the wetlands, and just make sure that you do your due diligence and research the property. If it's got wetlands, it may not be to your liking.
Or then again, it may be in an acceptable location to your property and your design. Yep. And it might work. So.
And nobody will ever be able to build on it. Another thing is you could buy a piece of property that's next to wetlands. Nobody is ever going to be able to build there.
Or maybe you can also, use that in your negotiations and get a better price because it has wetlands.
But you need to talk to somebody about that, like us. Number 3, digging a pond. Now, if you're driving around, you've been looking at ag land, you've probably noticed that there's a pond somewhere on that property near the house, if it's got a house or even an outbuilding. And there's a reason why. Because the dirt that's used from that pond is used to build up the pad that the outbuilding or the house is built on. Now, there's some really important things to know before you go out and you just start shoveling out a pond. Number 1 is you're going to want to get it engineered.
Yeah, the engineer is going to tell you the slope, the grade, the pitch of the pond, like the cut fill rate. Your digger is going to know and need to know how much dirt comes out of the pond, because all that dirt actually has to remain on the property.
Yeah, you cannot take that dirt off the property somewhere else. That's a no-no. So keep the dirt on your property. But you're not going to want to, I mean, you don't want to go out and buy dirt if you don't have to. Use that dirt to build up your roads and the pad for your house, so on and so forth. It's really nice to be able to do that. And plus,
dirt's expensive.
It makes it a beautiful, it just makes it more beautiful. Like, we've got a pond we dug. We've already got fish in there. Birds come and swim in it. We've got some nice, grasses that are growing around the edge. And now
it's pretty.
Now we actually have a little gator in it too.
Yeah, he's little right now, but
little guy.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Drainage.
Drainage.
Super exciting.
Well, you need it.
Unless you don't have it. And then it's a mucky mess.
Yeah.
So you got to have drainage. Where's the water going to go? Probably some will go back into your pond, or you're going to have it run into nearby ditches and canals. Something you're going to need to think about is drainage, culvert pipes, and the direction of water.
Number 5, you got to dig a well.
Can't just call the county and give them your deposit and have them flip the water on.
Yeah, where are you going to get your water from? The water's going to come from the ground. Luckily, here in Florida, we've got these beautiful aquifers underneath the ground, and we can draw our water from there. But there are some important things to know about that, and there's some different depths that are going to affect the quality of that water. If you're shallow, you're usually going to get some kind of rusty water, and if you go too deep,
might get salt water.
You might get salt water. And in fact, you want to make sure you test your water. If you're growing crops or you're, using it for your livestock, test your water before you actually start using it. We recently did that. We found that our well was just a little bit too deep. We've got more sodium in our water than we'd really like. It's not going to be good for the plants.
Yeah.
So we've got to remedy that by, pulling it up. And
our well is 500 feet deep. We've got a 4-inch, flow well. And what they're going to do is come in and drop rocks and concrete and stop it up, and then bring it up about 450 feet. And fingers crossed we'll have good water then.
Yeah.
Number 6, septic. Oh crap, we got to talk about this. Okay, super important because the poo's got to have a place to go. And
Poo patrol.
We want to keep, the environment clean and healthy. And this is something that you do need a permit for. Got to have a septic. It's really not a big deal, but your septic person will be able to help you with all the permitting. If for some reason you haven't built your barn and it's going to have a bathroom in it, if you haven't built that up high enough, or your residence isn't up high enough, you're going to have a lift station. Also not a big deal, costs you a little bit more money, but
what a lift station does is it does run off of the next thing we're going to talk about, electricity. But what it'll do is it'll take your poo and it puts it in a tank, and then the electricity is used to power a pump that pumps it into the
like
septic tank, a higher elevation septic tank, because water obviously doesn't run uphill, so that's why you have that pump. That's called a lift station.
But it's not like out of the ground and you can't see it or anything like that. It's not like ugly. It's just a hump of dirt. Number 7, electricity. Also, not just flipping a switch. Takes a bit. Well, once you get it, you can flip the switch. It took us about a year to get. We have FPL here. Yeah, takes some time. Costs a little bit of money. And so, like, when you're looking at a piece of property, look around and see if you've got a power pole anywhere near that property. A power pole is that, big long post with either a light on it and power. So if you don't have one of those near you, then you're going to have power brought in. Yep, down the street or something.
And guess who's going to pay for that? Not FPL. You're going to pay for it. So here's the thing, though. If you have to bring power into your property, and there are other properties around you that are vacant that are eventually going to be sold,
you might be able to share in the cost. So you could be the first guy to get the pole, and then when your surrounding neighbors are ready, you can divide up the cost with them.
Yep.
It is kind of a handshake deal, or you could be rude and not share it all. But you know, that's not a nice way to start out your
Well, if they
neighborhood.
want, you know, if your neighbors want power, they're going to need to feed off your pole, and then you can say, you know, either pay me some money or get your own power. I guess that's what you mean by that when you say rude, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. There is a big opportunity to save some money here, though, if you want to do some of the work yourself. FPL quoted us 10 grand to come and set the power pole, and then we have 10 acres in front of us. So then they were going to run the power line underground. It's like 600 something feet to us, and then we had a few hundred more feet till we got to our transformer. But we opted to go pick up all that piping that runs underground ourselves, have the trenching done, and yeah, that saved us about 5 grand.
And that leads us into variables. You got to know your variables. There's going to be variables when you're purchasing property. I mean, this is a lot different than just, you know, thinking about like extra builder stuff. I mean, you were going to have to think about that if you're buying a residential property only on a 1/4 acre and 1/8 of an acre. But we're talking about land here. It's a whole different lifestyle. So the variables, number one, land clearing. You're clearing a lot of land here, and that's going to be expensive. So take that into consideration. Number two, you're going to want a tractor or a golf cart to get around. A tractor, obviously, you're going to be using to move dirt, to be digging trenches, like I'm doing right now.
You can mow your grass with the tractor.
Yeah, and if you need some insight on a kind of tractor, I've done a ton of research on them, and we've got one that we really like, so I'd be happy to share that information with you. So the other one is you're going to need more equipment, bigger equipment, tools. Your little weed whacker isn't going to work anymore. Your little lawnmower,
I tried it.
Not going to work anymore. You're going to bust your back. So you're going to need bigger, more efficient tools. What else? Fencing?
Yes, fencing is a big one, especially if you're going to have any livestock.
Yeah. You've got the cost to maintain the livestock and take care of them. Or even with row crops, you're going to have the cost of
irrigation.
Yeah, irrigation that's huge. You got to be able to water your plants.
Yeah. Last but not least, what about some fun?
Gotta have some fun.
Out
that's
here?
That's what we're doing out here. We're here not only to provide for our family and to be self-sufficient, more self-sufficient. Really, I want to be completely off the grid. We're not quite there yet, but we want to have fun.
Yeah.
So we went out and we bought ourselves a side-by-side. You might want to do the same thing. You might want some dirt bikes. Who knows? You might want some guns and some clay pigeons. These things you can do when you have your own land that you can't do in the neighborhood, in the city. And
do your due diligence, make your list, whatever you write down on your list, add at least 10 grand more.
Yeah, one of our friends said everything costs at least 10 grand, and we're finding that to be true.
Yes.
So that's it. If you're thinking about buying land, agricultural land in Indian River County, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, like, comment below. And as much as we love making these videos, we would love it even more to help you with your purchase and sale of real estate. Give us a call. The phone number's right here. I'm Zach. That's Tonya.
Yep.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.